Hey everybody, Rob Anderson, Clean Power Wash, Salisbury, Maryland. Wanted to do this video as kind of a welcome or intro video. Hopefully this way a lot of the repetitive questions that we're seeing asked a lot, and they can kind of get a little old and frustrating sometimes to see asked a lot in the different groups. So I wanted to kind of hit a lot of the basic things. I've got this little cheat sheet of kind of some of the stuff that I want to go over here. Hopefully that turned out pretty well in the video. I guess first and foremost, when you get into the different groups, there's tons and tons of information. I mean, these groups were not started yesterday, or at least the vast majority of them were not. There's literally years and years and years of information. Use the search bar. Just right at the top of Facebook, you see that little spot, it says search. It's a little bit more difficult to find when you're on the mobile app, but if you get on the computer, it's real easy. And quite frankly, on the app, it's not that difficult as well. But if you want to learn house washing, gutter cleaning, KEC, window cleaning, whatever, just figure out the terms, search it, and read. You will get so much more knowledge out of that than continuing to ask posts and having people regurgitate the same information or different versions of it. Having people have to create something on the fly to answer your question that you posted on a Wednesday in March or whatever, versus stuff that was, people took a lot of time on some of the other posts. You're going to get a better, a more well-rounded information from going back and looking through search than a lot of times posting something new. Also, YouTube is a great resource. Check out all the Michael Kreisley videos. Once you're done with this, he's got, I don't know, probably like 50 or 100 videos at this point, whatever he's got. They're all worth watching. If it saves you a few seconds or if it helps you learn a different technique or whatever. I like it because he's to the point, covers a lot of real basic things, but also gives you a lot of good, backup reasons or justification for why he does it this way or that way. And also be careful with what you see on YouTube too, because there's some people out there. There's that painter guy with the turbo nozzle. Don't do that. Very, very bad idea to use a turbo on siding. It's just bad. And if it's done by like the home improvement centers, it's typically not going to be something that we would even remotely consider as a good recommendation or how to actually do regular power washing. As far as terminology, we throw a lot of abbreviations around. SH is probably the biggest one. Use at least once or twice a week. Somebody's, what's SH? SH is sodium hypochlorite. 90-95% of the time is that's what we're talking about. The rest of it's sodium hydroxide. Sodium hypochlorite's basically it's bleach. It's 12.5% bleach. I can range between 10 to 15 depending on how fresh or hot, as we like to call it, it is. If it's been sitting in a barrel outside for a while, or if it's been sitting in, temperature controlled shaded area, it's gonna have a different shelf life at that point. With the hydroxide, typically you're using that for either for deck stripping, or dealing with grease. It's great because it'll cut right through that stuff, but it is something that you do need to take more precautions when using. Also, SH or sodium hypochlorite is also called pool shock, or you can get it most of us are buying it from a pool company, one shape or another. There's a big and important difference between SH and CH, or calcium hypochlorite, which is also another kind of pool shock. It's going to leave a powdery residue. Also, the chlorinating tablets, not a good idea. Just buy the liquid stuff. I know there are a couple of guys that use the powder or granules or whatever, but they are definitely the exception, not the rule. Use liquid. It's a lot easier to work with. Ox is oxalic acid. It can be used for rust removal. You can also use it for brightening decks or fences, whatever wood. And even if it's new wood, it can also help open up the pores, so when you do stain that deck that's a year or two old or whatever, so that the stuff can actually really get into it, it kind of exfoliates it. Sodium percarb is a good thing to use to clean up the surface. For wood, it's pretty much the safest thing, or the only safe thing to use over bodies of water. Again, still go check your local EPA regs and everything. EBC, Enviro Cleaner, used for gas stations, degreasing. You can use it in house wash mixes, all kinds of stuff there. Same thing, well, not same thing. Dragon Juice, or DJ, seems to be a miracle soap. You can use it on anything. I've used it on roofs, siding, gutter brightening, and microfiber couches. You know, whatever. F9, there's Bark and Efflow. Bark for rust removal, Efflow for removing efflorescence. And there's lots of different variations of a lot of these things. You're also going to have your surfactants, like Snotmonade, or Roof Snot, Klingon. You got things like Eliminator, all these different soaps, and a lot of them are going to be somewhat similar at their base combinations and everything, and what the actual chemical is. But you know, so take that with whatever you want there. There's tons of other stuff for rust removal, degreasers, all kinds of other stuff. And there's things that'll be coming out new, and people come out with variations of it or whatever. You don't need to buy everything at once, but it's good to have a lot of different tools in your toolbox at your disposal for that stubborn stain, or if you get into a tricky situation, or you need to all of a sudden do a job that you haven't done before or something, and it needs to be done now. Well, you can get the advice, but if you don't have the cleaners or chemicals that you need, it's going to be a good bit harder to get that job done properly. J-rod, another term we throw around a lot. A J-rod is not some magical tool that does amazing things. It is literally just 4 female plugs that have been welded together. The tips that you put in it is what matters. I typically, anytime I'm ordering a machine, I just ask whatever vendor to make me a J-rod that would match that machine. It's typically going to be, your standard J-rod's going to be long range or high soap, low soap, high rinse, low rinse. You can put whatever you want in them. I've got some shooter tips, which there's a whole bunch of different ones. The original shooter tip, innovative shooter tip, sniper, assassin. We like to come up with fun names for these, apparently. And you, same thing. Search, figure out which ones work best. You don't need to have all 10 different kinds. Buy 1 or 2 or 3, try them, figure out what you like, and then keep the other ones as a backup. With the soap tips and everything on that note, as far as getting your soaps or detergents onto the surface, you've got pretty much just three main methods: downstreaming, X-jetting, and direct application. Downstreaming is going to have the downstream injector placed right at the outlet of the high pressure size, or you could have it out at the end of a jumper hose right before your reel. But it's basically before the long run of hose. You just switch tips. It creates back pressure, or you can use a ball valve to restrict the flow, and then that'll also help it draw soap. I've got another video on how to do that. And then it runs through the line. You get your soap. I like it foams up pretty good that way too. X-jetting is going to give you your highest draw rates. You're usually bringing a jug or bucket or whatever of the chemical that you're going to use to clean. Bringing that out there, then it's going to pull whatever draw rate. Throw away the little proportioners. Use your max draw rate and just adjust your mix. Instead of trying to take the plastic hose off and put the little barb thingy back in there and everything, and worrying about it being perfectly accurate. Just get used to whatever draw rate it is, and like I said, adjust your mix accordingly. There's always fights back and forth on which method's better. It doesn't matter. Some jobs will be better suited to downstreaming than X-jetting, and vice versa. There's also direct application. You can use a pump-up sprayer Don't buy a backup sprayer. It's going to burn your back. It will leak. Doesn't matter how expensive it was. It will leak. It will burn you, and then you'll be posting pictures of your burned backside, and you won't get much sympathy. We'll just laugh at you or tell you that you shouldn't have bought it and to go return it if you just bought it. Sorry, that's just the truth there. Direct application, though, you can also use things like 12-volt electric pumps, air diaphragm pumps, or gas-powered pumps. It's with gas or air diaphragm, it's just like a pressure washer. Sorry, the gas one's more like a pressure washer, but that runs bleach or whatever chemical through it. And actually, sorry, real quick safety tip: make sure that you understand with the different chemicals what can and cannot mix. Do not let bleach and oxalic, or really any acid and bleach, come in contact with one another. It's okay if the area's been well rinsed to then put that on a particular area. If you're cleaning wood and you used bleach to clean it, and then you applied that, you rinsed it, you washed the area, and then you apply the oxalic acid, that's fine, but don't mix them. Even in low concentrations, it can be hazardous to your life and health and everything. As far as surface cleaners, that's usually, a lot of people will ask that, what size surface cleaner or which one should I get. Whisper Wash Classic and Whisper Wash Ultra are pretty much the gold standard with it. They do cost more, and that's because they're worth it. As far as what size to get, you want to pair that based off the machine that you have, or that you will have soon. 4 inches per gallon per minute, so if you've got a 4 gallon a minute machine, again, we're not worried about the PSI at this point. You'd buy a 16-inch surface cleaner. The only exception I'll say is that early on you are most likely going to be at a 3 or 4 gallon per minute machine. But as your business grows, you're going to want to upgrade to either 5.5 or 8 gallons a minute. So I bought a Whisper Wash Classic when I first started out. And I was using 4 gallons a minute, and then when I bumped up to 5.5, all I had to do was just change the tip size. Now when I go to 8, I'll change the tip sizes again, or I'll buy a 4 nozzle bar, which will really speed up cleaning tremendously. So yeah, but don't buy a 48-inch ground force or big guy or whatever it is when you're running 4 gallons a minute, because it's going to be awful. As far as